Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream with Competitive Cameras. We are your go-to for all things photo and video, and where all orders over $99 get free 2-day shipping. Today, we've got a fantastic guest on hand, a gentleman that has a wealth of knowledge and a long history of creating just beautiful imagery. And on top of that, he is quite the entrepreneur and has a lot of wisdom to bestow upon us on how to be creative and how to be successful in this ever-changing landscape of content creation. So without further ado, let's welcome Miguel Quiles, Sony Artisan of Imagery, to the show. Welcome, Miguel. How are you?
Hey, Andy. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here today.
I'm stoked, man. You are quite the creator, and you've got your hands on a lot of different things. So I'm excited to dig in and pick your brain on some things to share with the world on how you found success, and hopefully they can incorporate some of these and find some success for themselves.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. First off, let's tell everybody where home base is for you. Where are you at?
Home base is Orlando, Florida. Moved here right at the start of the pandemic in 2020 and got all my family and everyone here. So Orlando, Florida is home base.
Where were you prior to that?
Prior to that, I did like a 7-year. I was about to say 6, 7, but you know, try not to. I got kids crazy, that get all the time, and it literally was like 6 or 7 years in New Jersey, and it was amazing. Loved it up there, but all my family's here in Orlando, so basically was here in Orlando, moved to Jersey, worked for a few years, kind of developed and built my career, and then brought all of that back down to Orlando.
Okay, so Orlando is home. That's where you grew up.
Yeah, right. It's kind of weird because, like, you know, I was born in up north in Connecticut and lived up there for a few years, early life, and then kind of my dad just like always wanted to be in Florida, but like he could never really make it work. So we moved to Florida, lived there for a few years, go back up to Connecticut, live there for a few years. He'd come up with he was an entrepreneur as well, would come up with another idea, bring us back down to Florida, back to Connecticut. And then finally we just landed in Florida, and we've pretty much,
it's a lot of hopscotch there.
Yeah. Early on in life, it was just like, I just remember going back and forth. And I'm like, why do we keep moving? And it's like, oh, Dad wants to start he wants to open a gas station. And then, he wants to open up a food truck, and it was just like open up a restaurant in Tampa. And it was just going back and forth with different business ideas that for whatever reason didn't pan out. And so, we traveled quite a bit early on.
Even though they didn't pan out, your father still had that spirit in him, huh?
He did.
I would imagine that probably rubbed off on you a little bit.
Yeah, he was a hustler. It's the only way to put it. The man was a hustler of all hustlers. He had maybe like an elementary school education at best, but he was street smart, and so that side of things, I thankfully was able to pick some of that up and made it through college. At least to get my associate's degree in college. So I feel like I built a little bit on to the things that he taught me, but yeah.
That's great. Where's their father from?
Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yeah. Mom and dad both from Puerto Rico. So I am officially Puerto Rican, even though I was born in Connecticut and sound very white, but yeah.
So thinking back in those early days as a child and constantly moving back and forth, did you already have an appreciation for the arts? Did you have a specific moment that kind of triggered that, or was it just something that had been building this whole time and finally you realized it and kind of ran with it?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question. I mean, growing up, I was never the most artistic, like traditionally artistic person, meaning that I couldn't draw very good, didn't sing. I wasn't like a traditional artist, but I was a creative thinker. And I applied that creative thinking across basically everything that I did, throughout school, throughout my educational upbringing, my early career, and then my career today, so I wasn't a kind of like a prototypical artist. but I've been a creative basically from day one,
So you
from the
saying you
early,
had a big imagination as a kid?
very, very much so.
Yeah.
I remember, back then I wanted to be an inventor. And I would always, like many kids, you have all these crazy ideas of things that you wanted to invent. And, I was like a young alchemist, I'd take like stuff around the house and I'm like, oh, this is going to be an invisibility potion, and I'd blend all these things
That's
together.
amazing.
And then, as I got older, I was like, I want to make things. And
Yes.
I remember watching, this might date me, but watched this cartoon, Dennis the Menace, back in the
Oh
day.
yeah, dude. Old
And
school
I
right there.
remember he had like in the intro, if I remember correctly, he had this like little plane thing that he built that like kind of flies. And I was like, I'm going to build one of these things. I didn't know that, flight wasn't capable, yeah, outside
Yeah.
of like having a helicopter or plane or whatever. So, I'd go to Home Depot with my dad and buy a bunch of like little pieces of like scrap wood and would build stuff that, in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, this is the steering wheel for this plane that I'm going to build. But,
That's pretty
I
amazing because
found out.
it kind of takes me back too, because I imagine we're probably pretty close in age, and we grew up in that era where you didn't have all this stuff visually in front of your face all the time. So
Right.
you had to create, you had to
Yep.
imagine. It's like I remember we were talking to my kids, they're 15 and 11. It's like we didn't have access to cartoons 24/7.
Right.
We
Yeah. It
had to
was in
wait
the
till the
mornings on
weekend.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You'd have them early morning when you woke up. And then by the time school started, there was no cartoon programming unless you had cable,
Yep.
and then even cable TV didn't really have like great kids programming. It
Yeah,
was,
it wasn't.
I mean?
Yep. Grown up in an era that forced you to create, I guess kind of forces us a little ahead of our time.
It did.
Now, in regards to photography, do you remember the first time you picked up a camera and shot and actually saw it for what it is and not just, we grow up and we're handed a camera and we take snapshots and we laugh at the pictures as they develop and stuff like that. But when did you finally say, hey, this is an art that I want to explore?
Hmm. Um, it's kind of an interesting thing. I went through most of my like early upbringing, not really having like a deep desire to like want to take photos or be in photos or anything like that. It actually started when I graduated high school. I started working at this kind of a boutique electronics store. And in that store, they sold cameras of all types, 35 millimeter cameras. Digital cameras were kind of newer and were on their way
Mhm.
up. A decent camera, like a high end camera back then was like a 1.3 megapixel, and most of the rest were like 640 by 480.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was much more into cars and into video games. And so what ended up happening was, as I started working at this electronics store, I would go to these car shows and I wanted to take pictures of the cars that I would see because there were some
Hmm.
pretty sweet cars. And I would tell people, oh, I saw this like really amazing car. And people were like, oh, I can't imagine that. And I'm like, let me show you my camera, and I'd print out
Yeah.
these digital photos of like stuff at car shows. And that's kind of how the passion started. I met photographers at that point in life where, they were going to these car shows and they were meeting people and getting paid to photograph people's cars. And I didn't know that was going to be a thing for me at the time, but I was like, that's pretty cool that you can make money taking pictures. It kind
Yeah.
of was early exposure to that. And then, probably a decade or so later, I decided after working in a lot of different fields, doing a lot of different types of jobs, that I wanted to go into business for myself and that I would use photography as that vehicle. And so
How
2011,
old were you when you made that decision?
so it was 2011. So I was, let's see, 31.
Okay.
Yeah, about 31 years old, or 30, somewhere in that ballpark. So I was pretty, I was older. I wasn't one of these people that, started in photography in their like, teens and 20s.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was happy that I did it when I did it because I had the opportunity to do and learn a lot of different things outside of photography, outside of creating a photograph. I learned sales skills, I learned marketing skills, I learned just business skills, I learned social skills. I was able to learn a lot of different things that now you learn photography, and now you can have a more well-rounded base of skills, to approach the business. So,
was there something in particular that happened that kind of was the catalyst for you making this decision to work for yourself?
Yeah. Yes. So at the time, I was working for a phone company, and was working in a call center, working for the sales group at this for this phone company.
Phone company, as in a phone service for landlines in homes?
Yeah, well, they're not
Okay.
around anymore, so it doesn't matter. But I used to work for Sprint,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
some people might remember, probably not so fondly. But I used to work in the business sales group, and
Okay.
at the time I was very much just like now. I'm like a tech head. Like I loved technology in general, and I would be, in pretty much all throughout my life, wanted to be like the subject matter expert when it came to like technology and things of that nature. And so, working for this company, tablets were emerging. They were kind of a newer technology. Smartphones were a newer technology. And I was selling a lot of those things to my business clients. And so people started to ask questions like, how are you selling all these tablets to these, business customers? And so I'd share things with them. And basically, long story short, I got the opportunity to become like a content creator of sorts, where our small leadership team at the call center basically would record videos of me where I would introduce new phones, new tablets, and then I would equip them with the information that they would need so that when they call a business customer, that they can have intelligent conversations about like, here's why you need a tablet. Here are the apps that you need to, make your business go smoother. And very long story short, I was creating these videos as just like for free, it's like just giving out information that was helping out the call center. And then ultimately they took the videos and they rolled it out to the entire sales organization. So I'm helping essentially like thousands of people to be able to do this, but they didn't increase my pay. And
You're like, where's my royalties, man?
Like I still had the same sales numbers that I had to hit. So I'm like, how am I going to hit my sales numbers when this literally takes like, many, many hours a week to learn and to, just to do everything. And so I got to the point where I'm like, why am I here? Like I could go do this for somebody else. Like I have the skills, and I'm just going to go do this for someone else and make money and not have to like be suppressed by, people who didn't even understand what I was trying to do or where I wanted to go in my career. And so I ended up leaving. And
did the conversation of increasing or restructuring your pay even come up?
No. If anything, they were just like, at this point, like you started making these videos, and
we're going to need you to keep doing them.
Yeah, we're going to need you to keep doing it. And your sales numbers, unfortunately, like we can't lower your targets because you're like, you have the same title as everybody else, So they just they couldn't do it. And for me, I was just like, as much as I loved doing it and like the exposure was great, my name was known throughout the organization, which for a company like Sprint that had tens of thousands of employees, that was cool. But this happens a lot, I think, in even for photographers and creators, that they look at an opportunity like that and they're like, this is it. Everybody knows who I am. And this is like, I have fame of some sort, but the fame came at a cost, which was I wasn't able to make the kind of money that I wanted to make because I don't have the time to go out and do my job that paid me my income, So it was a lesson learned.
So prior to that, how much time had you spent being in front of a camera talking?
I mean, that really was the early kind of catalyst for where I am today. I spend zero time in front of
Okay.
a camera. Outside of like right around that time, kind of concurrent with this whole thing, I started with a organization called Toastmasters, which they had in our call center. So, it's kind of a way to kind of get paid time off because you would get an hour to go to this Toastmasters organization, which was all kind of other employees from Sprint at different levels. But Toastmasters was all throughout the world. They have a bunch of different chapters. And so for me to prepare for my speeches for Toastmasters, I would record myself and then rewatch it, see what my mannerisms were, see how many times I would say like, so, all the filler words, because they would grade your speeches based on how many times you would say those things. So I wanted to be aware of when I would say it. And the only way to do it was to record myself talking. So outside of that exercise, I spent, and no one saw those videos. They were for me. So I spent no time putting out videos to the world, basically.
How long do you think it took before you felt comfortable to where you would consider yourself polished?
I don't know that I'm polished now.
Yeah.
I would say that after I got my certification with Toastmasters, what it did do was it made it to where I didn't really care what people thought. And so that was very helpful. It wasn't so much that I was polished or that I was comfortable. I just really didn't care if I went up and I started talking and I said something dumb or I lost my train of thought. It just didn't matter.
No, that's good because that's something that we try to teach in different like especially in sports. So I'm trying to relate this to sports. I usually use a lot of analogies with that. And going into an endeavor, a game, a challenge, and being able to do it free and just not worry, alleviates a lot of pressure.
It does.
And it makes things so much easier. Because I mean, how many times have we gone on a shoot that we got paid for and you overthink things and walk on set and you're just completely destroyed mentally already because you've been overthinking everything. And then it just doesn't work out because you've already just drained yourself.
Anxiety is a beast, you know, and there's two sides of the coin though. I will say if you're on the anxious side and you look at that kind of train of thought, you might be like, oh, wow, that sounds great. That's where I want to be. But there are dangers of being in that kind of headspace as well. As an example, growing up, my dad really loved boxing. And I think in his head, it would have been like, I would have been the coolest son ever if I would have become a professional boxer, you know. And that wasn't in the cards, but I did get a couple of times where I got to compete in boxing and scratch that off the list of like, Dad, you know, I did this. But in my last competition, which was in 2009, not having that kind of like a little bit of anxiety, the fact that I was getting ready to go into a boxing ring to box with somebody who could have concussed me in front of like my friends and family, like none of it went through my head at all. And I kind of wish that I had a little bit of anxiety, you know, because I feel like I would have performed differently. I had it in my head that this was like sport and this is competition. And, you know, I felt like he was not prepared to, he wasn't prepared or equipped to like truly do the nasty things that I would have like had nightmares about. And so I just didn't have any kind of like animosity to like finish when I could have.
Yeah.
And I ended up losing the match. And I looked back and I was just like,
because you didn't fight with urgency or an intent.
Right. There was no urgency. I felt like I was winning the whole time. I felt like he wasn't hurting me. I felt like I was like skating my way to a victory.
Yep.
And, you know, if I would have had that anxiety of like, I don't know if I'm winning or losing this, I need to like put a stamp on this thing. And, you know, like I had one moment where I hit him and I was looking at his face and he had this like staggered look and I didn't go in for the finish. I was just kind of like,
y'all see, it's like a sparring session.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you mentioned sport and it just kind of brought that up, but you know, that's where like it's nice to kind of be a little bit more even, and I'm trying to work on that a little bit more because I think I'm very mellow by
Hmm.
nature, and um, you know, in some ways, I kind of wish I had a little bit more anxiety about
Certain things, yeah,
like just
push you a
push
little bit
me to
more.
like go.
All right, so let's take it back a little bit. We decide, I'm done with this. I'm done working for the man. I'm going to work for myself. How far into your craft were you at that point? Years?
When you say craft, are you talking specifically with cameras?
Yes, creating images. Well, actually, let's take another step back. When you said I'm done working for these people,
Yeah.
was photography your first choice?
No, no, not
Okay,
at all.
let's dig on
The
that.
idea was video. The
Okay.
idea was I know how to create videos. I know how to edit videos. I know how to produce a video, direct a video, and I'm going to go and basically create videos for small businesses. And that was like where I thought I was going to be, you know, with my career at the time. And then a funny thing happened where, you know, if you meet somebody, let's say you run into a business person and you start having the conversation, oh, what do you do? Oh, you know, I run a car dealership. Oh, that's great. And then what do you do? And I'm like, oh, well, create videos for businesses, right? If I want to show them the work that I've created, I need time. I need
Yes.
time and I need their attention. It's not something that could be communicated very quickly. And so I realized fairly early on, and I don't know if it was within the first like 6 months or so, that that side of the business is really tough. Trying to show people what you do when at the time it's not like it is now with social media where like everybody has content, every small business has content on
Yeah.
social media. You know, back then it was something that was relegated to bigger companies and bigger brands. And so they couldn't even imagine, you know, in their mind,
Hmm.
like you're trying to give them this like picture of this is what it is. And they're just like, I can't, I can't see it. And then
Yeah.
I don't have the time to like let you show me. So that's when I was like, you know what, maybe photography is the way. You know, you could easily digest a lot of photos in a
Hmm.
very short period of time if I just get my phone and I just start scrolling. So that's kind of how I made that pivot. Uh, but what was interesting was I thought when I made that pivot that I'd be done with video, and here we are.
Thank you, social media.
Hmm.
Now,
Gotta love
now,
it.
did you have any guidance when you first started? Did you have a group that you would go out and shoot with, or anybody that kind of took you under the wing?
I had a few mentors for photography when I started. Um, Not so much on the video side. Uh, yeah, more on photo than video. I had a lot of mentors, um, consumed a lot of content, practiced a bunch, and got to the point where I was fairly, you know, comfortable and competent with taking photos. But on the video side of things, it was really kind of just try different things
Yeah.
and just kind of see what sticks, you know. And then eventually I got the opportunity to create content for another photography retailer that had a pretty big social media following. And so that gave me the opportunity to kind of plant my feet and figure out my voice and how I wanted to teach things and talk about things. And right around that same time, I still had my personal YouTube channel as well, but I wasn't really doing anything with it. I wasn't, you know, it was more of like whatever videos they didn't want to take for whatever reason, I would put them on my YouTube channel
Put them
because
on
I
yours.
made it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, there wasn't so much in the early stages because there it was new. You know, YouTube was still, I mean, it was a few years old, but it was still not like it is today. You know, where it's on, it's like everywhere. It's on
Yeah.
phones, TVs. You know, it's there's people now. You know, for example, like I love horror movies, and the Backrooms movie is in the
Yeah.
theaters right now, and like the guy who's directing that movie for his A24 feature, he was a YouTube content creator, and so it's one of those things where like that type of thing wouldn't have happened when I started on the platform.
Oh no, I remember the early days, because YouTube back then was just like little quick BTS of people's lives.
Right.
Here's my cat being
Videos.
crazy. Here's, I'm going to go eat this. Like early days of Instagram, but in motion.
Right.
And
Right.
now it's a platform for commerce. It's
Very,
commercialized massively.
absolutely. Absolutely. It was cool to see it back then. And, to be honest with you, there was I had a friend who I grew up with. We kind of like split paths because he moved to California. And when he came back as like a dancer, a dance instructor. And he started a business where he would actually create dance videos with like famous choreographers. Like back then, boy bands and stuff like that were a big thing. And so he'd go to the people who would choreograph these like different musical acts and create a tutorial for how to dance. And he would sell these DVDs all throughout the world.
The old DVD hustle, man.
Yeah, doing the DVD hustle. And then YouTube started up as a platform, and he started to release, because he'd already made all of his money, selling these DVDs. He's like, what if I just start releasing this content on YouTube? And so he started his YouTube channel, and he became one of the very first YouTube channels to get monetized when they started the partner program. And so,
cool.
he was telling me back then, he's like, dude, I'm making like $15,000+ a month on YouTube. And I'm just like,
what?
Okay, huh? Like, and we're talking like the mid, or I guess not mid, because YouTube was 2006. So it was, late 2000s. I was just like, that's crazy, So I knew as a platform that there was potential. I also thought it was pretty crazy because like this is a guy who I grew up with. We played video games competitively, and so to go from like the kid who I knew to like all of a sudden he's like this like media mogul.
That's
crazy.
Hilarious. It's an amazing time where basically anybody that has an idea and has some passion, you could make something of it fairly easy, because everyone's got these amazing cameras in their smartphones already. All you need is a mic.
This is very, very true. Just pulling up the stream here. This is very true. I mean, back then it was hard. The equipment really wasn't there to make the process very simple and streamlined. Now it's like, man, you have your phone at a bare minimum. You could use your phone and create content and make things. Kind of put your word out there and put yourself out into the world. And the crazy thing is just like, you never know who is watching. Like you never know. I've had opportunities to meet, heroes of mine when I was growing up, celebrities, artists, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that I got to meet because I decided to put myself out there on YouTube. And so, you never know who's watching, and you never know like the snowball effect of I put myself out there and then I met this person and this person introduced me to this person. And next thing you know, like you have a whole different trajectory in life.
It's what I'm trying to get across to my kids, man.
Yeah.
Like put your best foot forward. You never know who you meet, what they do could eventually come back around and be an ally of some sort,
This is the truth, I try personally. I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old now, and I'm trying my very best to kind of the same lessons in them.
Yeah.
And it's tough, and I just think back, like there's just so much more noise now than there was when we were growing up. So to try to get them to understand that the world is not the way that you're seeing it through your eyes right now. The world is different. And just trying to equip them with ways to be able to navigate things and to think, like as random as this is, I was very big into playing Magic the Gathering. Leading right up to when I started my professional photography career. So much so that like I wanted to be a pro player and was going to tournaments and I spent several thousands of dollars on cards, and my first purchase of a camera and lens and all that stuff, I actually sold my Magic the Gathering.
Oh, that was hard, huh?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, we're done with this. I'm not going to be the pro player because I didn't start when I was a kid, and I felt like I was at a disadvantage. But so I sold my cards and sold it all for camera gear.
That's a big commitment, man. That's when
Yep.
you knew you were serious. Like, I'm letting this go
I'm letting
to
this
make this
go.
move.
But all that to say, I want to teach my son Magic the Gathering because I felt like the way that you think about playing cards, specifically that game, will help you to navigate life. It's kind of
Yes.
a weird thing, but it's just I'm thankful for the time that I spent, trying to pursue playing competitively because it taught me to think about the game of life very differently.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I mean, we're kind of going off on a tangent from creating YouTube videos right now, but I have an appreciation for video games and I have an appreciation for sports because they both do a lot to help build your character and give you tools to understand how to read people and read situations. Because with
True.
video games, you're constantly solving problems. You're having to figure out how to get to that next level, how to find this, how to do that to progress into the game. Because if you don't, you're not gonna move. You're not gonna progress, and the game's gonna suck. And playing sports, you have to figure out, how am I going to communicate to somebody? Because in your position where you're doing a seminar, you're laying out a theory. You can say it verbatim to every person in that room, but they all take it in different.
Sure.
So you have to be able to see via visual cues, are they confused? Are they understand what I'm saying? And if they're not, how do I convey this to you? How do I make sense of this to you? And that's something that's developed by playing sports and working in the service industry. Like there's so many different things in life that complement each other to make you successful, especially in your role as an instructor or an educator.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I feel very scared and nervous for a lot of the kids that are coming into, the career phase of their life.
Yes.
Who didn't have the opportunity. Like some of them are like, oh, I'm going to become a content creator straight out of high school. And they didn't have the opportunity to go work a job somewhere to learn skills while getting paid. A lot of the sales skills and marketing skills that I learned, I was paid to learn and to practice those things and to test those things. And if they worked, great. If they didn't work, it wasn't my company and it wasn't my job.
Yeah.
The customer came in and
playing with house money there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm playing with house money, with house knowledge. And then after many years, you learn, okay, like showing up to work on time and what does that look like? To have like a job that I have to wake up and go to, drive 45 minutes to an hour to get to work. And I got to clock in at the exact time or else I'm late. And, you get a 15-minute break and a 1-hour lunch break and that's it. And trying to manage time and just, there's all that side of things now, especially with remote work culture and things that are happening right now where, I don't know, I'm just very nervous for how prepared that next generation is going to be when they get into all of this. I just hope that there's arenas and opportunities out there for them to still do some of the same things that we got to do.
Let's actually, I should have asked you before we started the show. Do you have time constraint? Do you have a hard out?
If we're done by like one, or I would say if we're done in the next like 25 minutes, I should be good. I have
okay.
At the top of the hour, I have another call, but.
All right, we're going to go straight into building your business from now. All right. When you started your business, you started doing videos and you had a challenge of explaining to people exactly what you did. So you added on the photography as a supplement. So was there somewhere along that line or on the timeline that photography ended up becoming the focus and video became second?
Yeah. Early on, after a few months when I realized that marketing the video side of things was really tough. I had to make a hard pivot and just started trying to learn photography as fast as I could. And I was thankful that I did it when I did it, because there was a lot of resources available. YouTube still wasn't quite there in terms of learning the art and craft and business of photography, but Creative Live was a platform. Learned a lot of stuff through Creative Live. Workshops were very popular at the time, so I would travel to go to workshops and learn from different, working professionals in the industry. And so I feel like that helped to supercharge my my experience. It wasn't so much like trial by error and just trying to figure out things. I would go to a workshop and then I would come home and I would set up a bunch of photo shoots and I would try to implement things. And, a few years later, so this was 2011 that I left, late 2011. 2013, I believe, I moved to New Jersey and then started to work under one of the side hustles and gigs that I had. I had a really good friend that I grew up with who was a wedding photographer in New York, who I used to second shoot with her. Okay. And then there was a very well-known, very established beauty photographer, which is more of what I wanted to do, who I got to learn under in New York. And so I just had the opportunity to just learn under these different people. And I was in a market where photography was valued and there was avenues to make money in photography. So
you're like, I got to follow the money.
Yeah. It was the right place too, to be in New Jersey and New York. It was great.
So when you transitioned into the photo focus, were you already set in a niche? Have you always been focused on shooting portraits?
No, at the time I thought I was going to be a wedding photographer, to be honest.
Okay.
And then I started working with my friends, second shooting weddings. And I remember very clearly, actually, we were working this wedding together. She was with the bride for the day or for the morning until the actual wedding. And then I was with the groom and his friends. And this couple had this crazy idea to take all these different photos in all these different areas of New York. And basically, long story short, after just being ping pong back and forth throughout New York and then having to work until midnight working the actual wedding, I was like, I'm not built for this. And I remember telling my friend, I was like, this is the last wedding I'm ever going to shoot.
Yeah. And
they were like, you're just saying that because it's a long day, you're tired. And I was like, no, it was just one of those,
you don't understand, man. I already know.
You do this. This is crazy, And so at that point, that's when I made the pivot and started to get a little bit more into commercial photography and doing portraiture. While at the same time, I recognized at that point that content creation could be a thing. And I was already making money creating some content for some smaller photography brands. And I just thought to myself, what if I just keep running with that? I'll have my photography business and then I'll supplement it with creating content for brands that need people to talk about their stuff. So
now when you were building out your photo clientele, how are you going about that?
So early on, it was a lot of word of mouth and a lot of just doing things through social media to kind of put myself out there. Word of mouth is very popular or very powerful.
Yes.
It's just crazy where, one thing leads into another. All of a sudden I get a client that, that one client basically had me working for an entire year, just going to different places, doing headshots and doing portraits for different types of people in different organizations. And it was very interesting. I remember early on in my first year, one client basically was my whole year of work.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was tremendous. And so
it eliminates a lot of stress of trying to find, where's my next check going to come from?
Yeah. And I've seen this all throughout my career where, I've always called them the golden goose client, where you could definitely do the onesie twosies, a job here, a job there, and you're always having to reintroduce yourself and reinvent yourself. Or you can find that golden goose client that just keeps on laying golden eggs for you,
Yeah.
almost on a consistent basis. And so I got very good over the years of finding those like golden goose client opportunities, and it served me well.
That's great. So do you operate mainly on your own, or do you have a team that you work with?
So I operate mainly on my own. However, I subcontract people to help out. So I have a friend that I actually have a few people that I subcontract to help me with shooting videos. So any kind of like, man on the street type of content, I'll have people that I hire to come and shoot those videos, sometimes edit those videos. I have a team of editors as well, where if I'm very busy, I just send it to them and they know my style, and they pump out a video that would probably be 100 times better than what I would have made, but also 100 times more expensive than it would have cost.
Right.
So yeah, I have a team of people that I subcontract. I have models that I work with that if there's content that requires a face, I have people that I can depend on that will come through. And I subcontract everybody, but it's a one-man show.
Did you have a hard time finding the right people to fill those roles?
Very, very hard time.
Yeah.
Very hard time. I got kind of lucky because my friend who has been in a bunch of my videos and shot a bunch of my videos early on, and I still work with him today, met him in New York. And, he was one of the early people that like, he wanted to shoot videos for me. And at the time I was just like, no, I'm kind of just doing this on my own and I'm good. It was hard for me to let go of some of the responsibilities that I had, but he was very persistent. And so finally I was like, okay, fine. And then I saw the value that he brought to the table, and just the work ethic and the consistency. And so I was very fortunate early on that I found somebody that was really good. Same thing with my makeup artist at the time, was somebody who I came up with, that she was learning what it meant to be like a makeup artist that would do commercial photography projects.
Yeah.
And so we got to learn to work together, work well with one another. So I was very fortunate that I got to build like a young team early on that were all just like superstars. But along the way, as I tried to like further extend that team out, that became very difficult. I realized like I got very lucky. I was very blessed at the time to meet the people that I did, because it was not the norm. Unfortunately, in the creative field, there's just a lot of people that have a lot of misconceptions about what this business is, what it looks like. And, again, a lot of them came, they're not that being young is like a bad thing, but, they came out of school and then went into like, okay, I'm going to be a videographer for a content creator. And they don't understand what it means to like be on time, not be a clock watcher, and not talk the whole time when the person you're working for has work that they have to accomplish.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's definitely tough. And I think, I was very fortunate early on to just have the right people around me that now I can kind of deal with those things. I have the patience for it, but had it been early on, I don't know, it would have been tough.
Is there anything in your day-to-day as far as running the business that you sometimes think, man, maybe I should hire someone to do this part for me full time? Or are you just in such a groove that everything's basically on autopilot and you're good?
I wouldn't say it's on autopilot. It's like this weird catch-22. Like there's a lot of things that I would love to hand off to somebody, but I don't know that there's somebody out there that has the kind of mind that I have towards the things that I do. And I've tried this before. Like I've tried, for example, I hired an assistant when I was in New York and New Jersey. And, I handed off a lot of the email, like the client interaction responsibilities. And they it's not their business, right? So they would respond in ways where I'm just like, what are you doing?
Just didn't make sense.
Yeah, like why would you respond that way to these people? And it's like, oh well, they want this, this, and this. And it's like, yeah, you don't do that. Like you can't say, you know what I mean? Like now I gotta email them and apologize, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. There's a lot of things just for my sake, like the sake of my sanity, that I would love to hand off to somebody else. But I've gotten used to just doing this on my own.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to let certain things go when it's that vital to the business, because you know, it's your name. You're wearing it on your sleeve. So I get it. And I always like asking people that because it gives you a gauge of how close they hold it to the heart.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's that was my whole thing in the very beginning. There were people that would start a business and it was under, you know, moonshine photography or whatever. I didn't want to do that because I wanted the business to be me, and I felt like I'd be more invested if it was my own name. And so that's how I ended up where I ended up, you know, and kind of driven the outcomes that, you know, have been had to this day has been because it's my name. And I want to make sure that, you know, if I'm late, like it's not, oh, Moonshine Photography was late, it's Miguel was late. So yeah, that's kind of kept me honest.
What would you say your split is right now between photography and video?
Nowadays it's like 95% video, 5% photography. And really it was because of, in my opinion, like the perfect storm of the timing of my move back to Orlando, Florida, and the pandemic. You know, I was in my car driving with my 3 dogs from New Jersey to Orlando the day that all of the leagues shut down because of COVID.
Yeah.
I was in the car listening to the radio, like the NBA is suspending their season. And I was just like, man, this COVID thing is getting serious, you know?
I know, right?
And, you know, I at that point, I still didn't have a studio. I had like 3 or 4 different appointments that were like scheduled. And when I got there, I would get settled. I would go look at some different studio spaces. All of those appointments canceled because of the pandemic. So long story short, you know, had I just been a portrait photographer in that era, in that period,
would have been pretty rough.
It would have been very rough because we couldn't operate, you know, just even finding a space to open up, let alone all the restrictions that you would run into with operating a business like that was very, very tough. And so, you know, I was very fortunate that content creation was in my back pocket. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this content creation thing until hopefully things get back to normal. And then we can take a look at the business of photography again. And it got so lucrative on the content creation side of things that I was just like, maybe I only do photography when I need to do it. You know, when I want to do it. Like I do the projects, and that's to this day, like I shoot the projects that I want to shoot. I don't have to say yes to everything that comes along. I could do passion projects. I could do photo shoots that I don't, you know, that are not paid, that are not like I have a requirement to put it out into the world.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's a cool place to be.
Good for you, man, because that's a fantastic place to be.
It's where I found myself. I can't say that I was like some genius architect, you know, that, I made this happen. It was just like, you got dealt a bad hand and you say, okay, well, where could I go from here? You know, and I bluffed my way through my hand all the way through to, you know, being able to have this career today.
So let's talk about partnerships and how you came across the opportunity to become a Sony Artisan of Imagery. How'd that all come about?
A little bit of luck, a little bit of timing. You know, we're going back to, so I became an ambassador for them in 2015.
Okay.
So it's been going on 11 years now. I
So
was
that would have
teaching.
been what, the Sony A7R3?
No, even before that.
2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first product launch where I got to go to like be a part of the launch was the R2.
Nice.
So I started with the Alpha 7. So this was Alpha 7 Mark II, like right around that time.
Okay.
So 2014, basically. But around that time, I was also teaching classes throughout New Jersey and New York, building a following through doing a lot of like local workshops. And one of the classes that I was teaching had somebody who was with the brand who happened to be at the store, and basically kind of got the idea in my head of like, hey, you should work with Sony directly. Like, you're shooting with Sony stuff, and you're teaching these classes and doing all these different things, and like maybe you should reach out to them, and so one thing led to another, and next thing you know, I get the offer to become an ambassador for Sony. And it was at a time where, if I'm being very honest, the Sony was not the brand that they are today. They were so much so that I remember I sold my other brand of camera equipment, and then got into Sony. And this was like a year and change before I became an ambassador. And I remember my photography friends being like, dude, like, have you fallen on hard times that you can't your gear? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It was almost like imagine if you had like this great, like, 6 or 7 figure job, and then all of a sudden you just decided, I want to go flip burgers at McDonald's. Like, all your friends would be like, bro, the fall off.
How can we help? Do we need to start a GoFundMe for you?
Yeah, like it was like that. Like my photography friends were like ratting on me, and I was just like, no, like, y'all just don't see what's happening around you right now. And so I ended up becoming an ambassador, and it's been 10, 11 great years, and hopefully many more to come.
That's great. I kind of was in the same situation around that time. I got hired on with a production studio, and we shot a lot of hair and makeup, beauty related stuff. And they basically gave me carte blanche to rebuild the studio.
Oh, wow.
And they were used to another brand. And I said, you guys should pick up the Sony stuff, because we're going to incorporate video and everything too. It's a great hybrid camera. And they're like, what? Like, Sony? No, come on now. I was like, no.
They're like, we can afford good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is the good stuff. Like, this is what I want.
Yeah. And then they saw the results and like, okay, we understand now.
Yep. I see you got, is it a FX2 or FX9?
That's my FX6 back there. I got a 7200. I always like to put a little thing here.
Yeah, I see that.
Compliment the brand.
I tried to do the same.
Yes, I see it. See, I don't have that YouTube plaque though, so hopefully one day.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you come to my class on Thursday, I can help you to procure one.
So if you were to give advice to somebody that is actively trying to develop relationships with brands and to get partnerships, what would you say to them?
I've had this conversation many times, and most people don't listen because they don't want to hear it. This is going to be the least sexy answer that you're ever going to hear, but it is the truth, the God honest truth. Develop yourself and build your own platform, build your own following, be who you are, the best version of yourself, before you ever try approaching any of these brands to want to work with them. I don't care how big, how small they are. There is no point in approaching a brand before you have like truly established yourself. Brands want to associate with people that are, that have a following, that are doing big things. And, be honest with yourself about it. Like there's people who are just like, oh yeah, they might be like rock stars when it comes to the business of photography, and they could be like the biggest photographer in their, local market, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And so that's where I say to people, like, build yourself up, build your own platform, YouTube is available to everybody, TikTok, Instagram, like put out content, establish yourself, build a following. And then the best thing that can happen, which is what I've seen in my personal career, is that brands come to you and brands say, hey, I want to work with you. What would that look like? And now I get to dictate what those terms would be.
Yes.
Versus like, I'm desperate and I'm, like, please take me, please.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look good. I liken a lot of these conversations to like relationships, right? Like if you were a single person and you found somebody that you really liked, like how can you make yourself attractive to that person? The last thing you want to do is just like, take me, I love you, I can't live without you. Like that's weird. It's off-putting.
No, I'm glad that
best person that you could be so that you hopefully attract that type of person.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because I've done a number of years of filming a lot of action sports and being around kids that are very talented in that given sport. And that's what they think is the only thing that a brand wants. I was like, no, they don't want just your skills. There's a lot of skilled people out there, but they want people that are honest, not an a-hole.
Yep.
And contributing to the community and uplifting the brand. So you have to develop your presence. So you can't just cold call and say, hey, I'm really fast. I won my last 4 races. I should get a free bike. I was like, it's not how this works, dude.
No, the world does not work that way, unfortunately, or fortunately. But yeah, you're 100% correct. And that's the reality of the situation. And to me, I think that's a very bright thing, because that is 100% in your sphere of control and your sphere of influence. You can make changes on a daily basis that, steer you in that direction versus steering yourself in the direction of just like desperately trying to pursue a relationship with a brand that, you've got to think at this point in the game, everybody is doing that.
Yep.
Everybody's doing that. So how could they look at you and see you any different than all the other people who, also woke up this morning and are like, I want to go and approach XYZ brand to try to do whatever. It's like, and the other thing about it too is like, you got to understand, you're not approaching like an individual that has their own like individual things going on. You're approaching companies that have like a bottom line. Some of them have investors and have people that they have to answer to. And so you got to think about it like a business person, right? What is the business benefit of a brand partnering with you? And that's what you have to ask yourself. And if you don't have a good answer for that, figure out what the answer is and then be that. Yeah. And then who knows where you might end up.
That's good advice. Let's quickly touch on the event this Thursday. We will be at the Slate from 4 to 7 p.m. 3 hours of knowledge from Miguel. What are we going to talk about?
Oh my gosh. We are going to get into the art of content creation. We're going to talk about the why. We're going to talk about the who, what, where, when, why, the whole thing from top to bottom, how to monetize your content, what is content, right? Getting people to get comfortable in front of a camera, because the reality is most people don't get into content creation because they're in their own heads about how they look and how they sound and blah, 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 like all the stuff that doesn't matter. So we're going to talk about the things that do matter. And then I'm going to equip every single person that comes to this event with the knowledge and the information that they need, that they can walk out, start creating content. And if they desire to make a living and a career out of it, they're going to have the best jump start that they could ever get. It's the jump start that I wish I had when I started. I had to figure all this stuff out, turning over rocks and being like, oh, cool. Like I'm literally going to give it to you on a platter over the course of 3 hours.
Nice. Intensive 3 hours of YouTube knowledge. Now, do you have a love-hate relationship with the YouTube algorithm?
No, I don't mind it. There are definitely some times where it's frustrating because I think to myself, man, this is a great video and I know the algorithm's not going to love it because it's just not speaking directly to my like target audience, but it is, it's just not on the surface. And so the algorithm just kind of suppresses it. So it's kind of annoying, but you know,
Do you have an actual like hard checklist for yourself? Because let's say you're shooting a video, like you said, I know this is important knowledge.
mhm.
It's something important to me, and I want to get this message out, but it won't necessarily perform well on YouTube. Do you have a list of things you go through before deciding whether you even film that or not?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Every single video that you see has been like, I call it focus group, but it's really me. I look at every single topic, every single title, every single crazy idea. And a lot of that I'm going to talk about in the class as well, but just trying to get people to understand like, here are the things that I think about before I even press record to shoot a video. And there are some videos where that kind of goes out the window and it's just like, no, I'm making this video and I really don't care. You know,
Hmm.
it's going to be what it's going to be. Um, but yeah, a lot of the stuff gets stress test, and sometimes you hit a home run, and sometimes, you prepare like crazy and you think it's going to be amazing, and then it's a dud. And
Yeah.
that's
And it's such a punch in the throat because you're like, man, that's such a good video
yeah.
though.
I got a lot of videos that are like that, and then I have a bunch of them where I'm like, this wasn't my best effort, and then next thing you know, the video goes viral, and so
It's
you
crazy.
don't know. The goal is just like keep showing up, keep creating the content, be true to who
Yeah.
you are, and just keep putting yourself out there. And you literally never know. There's some videos that I've had opportunities that stemmed from it, that the videos didn't even perform well, but the right person saw that video,
And
and then
reached out.
it comes up, and
Yeah, yeah.
wow, that's great.
It's a testament to always put out what you believe in.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
quick question for you. Can you see that I have your YouTube pulled
Yeah.
up?
Uh-huh.
Have you found that these thumbnails perform a lot better than the other ones that don't have a lot of text on top of
Um,
it?
so those specific videos, I kind of in the last few months have leaned a little bit more into like teaching the art of selling to creatives. It's a
Okay.
project that I've been working on this year. So these, I don't know if it's necessarily that the thumbnails are performing like good or bad. My audience likes off-camera lighting, photography
Hmm.
tutorials, things of that nature. But I'm kind of like forcing this, onto my audience. And because over the years, I'll do a class and I'll talk about business, and people are like, "Oh, you should create content about talking about the business of photography." And I had done it a few times over the years, and the videos didn't really perform very well. And when I mean they don't perform well, like 100 or 200 views, at
Yeah.
best. And so when I look at, where I was back then to now, like these videos that I've been creating recently are not overperforming in terms of like the overall body of content that I create. But for the type of content it is, to get 1,000 views on a sales related video is massive, because
Yeah.
it's, you know, like fivefold from what I would get when I would do the
It's
same video like back in 2018.
it's funny because going back to what I've done quite a bit of is filming videos for the mountain biking space.
Hmm.
And videos on things that truly matter on your performance get moderate views, and then something that's flashy and sexy like how to jump a bike just jumps off. Like
Right.
the
Right.
view count's crazy, but then if you teach them do this so you don't crash and bust your face open, they won't watch it.
No,
And
no.
it's
That's the life of a content creator. Like I know the videos that if I just made just those videos, that they would perform very well.
yes.
Consistently be bringing in views, bringing in affiliate revenue, AdSense revenue, sponsorships, all that kind of stuff. But at some point, it's just like, and you see
It
this with a lot of content creators, they get burnt out because they're
Yeah,
just
I
like,
was going to say it doesn't fulfill you. So at some point you're just like, why am I even doing this?
yeah, it's like, this is my, again, it's Miguel Quiles YouTube channel, right?
Right.
So like, part of me is kind of like, yeah, I know the things that will perform well, and I will put those things out. But I also like YouTube is my playground, and
Hmm.
I'm at that point in my life where I'm just like, I'm okay with putting out a video that, you know, even if it gives one or two people value, like I'm pretty happy. It doesn't have to be that it's this super viral, you know,
Yeah.
a crazy amount of views and ton of ad revenue and ton of affiliate sales. And, I'm glad that I know how to be able to do that when necessary. But, it's at this point in the game, I've been on YouTube now. I started the channel in 2012. So it's been a long time.
Nice.
And just at that point where I'm just like, you know what? I have bigger ideas and bigger goals. And I think the more recent videos have been kind of like a push for me in that direction to want to create that type of content and open up a new kind of field of opportunities. And so we'll see where it ends up. There's still a lot of photography related content, a lot of gear reviews and tutorials and, all the stuff that performs really well with my audience. All that is still to come. But there's going to be a lot of stuff sprinkled in there, stuff that like is medicine, I think, for photographers, that it's like, man, if you take this medicine, it's going to help you out.
Nice. Looking forward to it, man. I love this thumbnail that just says no. That would make me click.
It was one where when I made the title, when I came up with the idea for the video, I was just like thinking of all these different thumbnail ideas. And I was like, you know what? Just no. Like that's it. Just no. And hopefully that's intriguing enough that people will want to click on the video and watch it. And
it is for me.
It worked out.
Yeah. All right, real quick, I want to pull a few things from your Instagram and then I'll let you go because I know you got to bounce. Great work, by the way. I love your control of lighting and the way you sculpt things in shape. I want to touch on real quick this set right here because most people, when they shoot portraits and portraits like this, they're shooting females. So how does the mindset and how does your strategy change when you're shooting with men?
Oh my gosh. Some of my favorite portraits that I've taken to this day, including this set, have been of men. He happens to be a model. He's a fantastic model. If you look at him on Instagram, throw up. Amazing individual, amazing creator. This dude is like the hustler of all hustlers when it comes to modeling. Like he's out there putting himself out there.
Yeah.
But the approach for me, like I love photographing men. I feel like all the things that you can't do when you're photographing a woman in terms of like making their skin not look great, their hair has to be pristine. There's a certain level of like vision of what makes a woman look amazing in a photograph. And all of that stuff doesn't necessarily translate to when you photograph a man. And so, and that's liberating for me because it's like, hey, he could have some stray hair sticking out and it's no big deal. His skin doesn't have to be plastic. He could have wrinkles. He could have, imperfections. He could have contrast on his face with the lighting. And it's so different for people to see, because we're so used to like this like perfect image of a female that when you see an image like this of a guy, it's like it stops you, and I'm all about trying to create that scroll stopping image. I don't always achieve that, but that's always the goal when I pick up the camera and I start to take photographs. This was one of my favorite sets in a very, very long time that I shot.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty liberating to be able to shoot and welcome the textures and not have to stray away from it,
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a piece of content, by the way, on the Sony Alpha Universe YouTube channel. So I have my personal YouTube, and then I also have, I create content every single month for Alpha Universe. That was a video on the 85 millimeter f1.4 G Master version 2, which is on the channel. And you can actually see how I shot it, what the settings were, the whole like behind the scenes of how that image was created.
Do you have any links for information on your technique on this shot? This is a beautiful shot, by the way. And I like how you balanced the natural light with the artificial light.
I think this was also an Alpha Universe video.
Okay. I'll get with you and try to find that link so we can share it.
Yep. And I know I have a video very similar to this, which was talking about shooting with high-speed sync. It was a different model, but shot in the same location, same technique. I've done it with high-speed sync. I've done it with constant LED lighting. So yeah, I have a couple of videos that show how to do this.
Isn't that amazing technology? High speed sync.
Yeah. Oh, it's especially
It's
when I
crazy.
started, like that wasn't a thing, and the
Yeah, man.
alternative was a lot heavier lifting.
Yeah, and ND down and stuff like that.
Yep, exactly,
We'll
exactly.
touch on this and then we'll let you go. How was this experience, man?
Oh my gosh, I am the biggest mixed martial arts
Yeah,
fan.
you got that boxing background, man.
Got that boxing background, and then boxing kind of started to fall off when MMA was taking off, and so if you had asked me early on, Miguel, you could have a career in photography, what would you want it to be in? It probably would have been like cage side photographer. If I could have made a living, like this would have been like a dream job.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to go and photograph this event cage side. And at the time, I had the unannounced, unreleased 50 millimeter, 50 to 150 f2.
Oh, nice. That's such a nice lens, man.
It is the goat of Sony lenses. And
It's
so I
amazing.
had it before its announcement, and I got to photograph this event. So I took some photos with the 28 to 70 f2, and I shared that on social media. But in reality, a lot of the photos were taken with the 50 to 150. So it's kind of a mix of the two.
Nice.
But just getting that opportunity to be cage side and get to see a lot of like my mixed martial arts heroes, just kind of walking around and standing a few feet next to me, next to the cage as they were coaching fighters and stuff. Again, it's one of those things where I was just like, when I started in photography, I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that my ability to take photos would land me cage side, best seats in the house, to with unreleased amazing
Equipment.
equipment,
Yeah.
to photograph like one of my favorite sports on this planet. So yeah, it was amazing. I got to photograph a couple of MMA events. I got to photograph Real American Freestyle this year.
Oh, nice, man. That's taking
Yeah,
off.
yeah, it's been amazing, man. So I'm hoping that being a content creator has allowed me the ability to do side quests in photography.
Yes.
So one of the side quests that I've been taking as of late, on top of the selling, teaching sales to creatives, but it's also been being a wildlife photographer and then also being a sports photographer. It's been awesome.
That's pretty awesome, man. Well, looking forward for your visit. It's going to be a good time. And give me a shout when you get in town. Maybe we'll go grab
Yes.
lunch and chat fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
it's a big week.
I will let you go. Thank you again for stopping by and hanging out. And again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We are having this class with Miguel at the Slate in Dallas, just outside of the Design District on Thursday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Tons of information, a lot deeper than what we touched on today. If you want to sign up, link is below. And remember, we are your go-to for all things photo and video, and all orders over $99 get free 2-day shipping. Miguel, if you were to leave with one piece of wisdom, what would you like to say to the people?
The one thing that I would say to everybody is do not be afraid to fail. There's a lot of wisdom in failure. I failed a lot. And, there's a book I'm pretty sure that talks about failing forward. And,
Yes.
and I believe it. It is a thing. You could fail your way forward. Keep trying different things. Pursue your passions. Pursue good things. And in time, good things happen.
I love it. It's like going back to the sports again. You don't ever actually lose a competition. You learn.
Yes, right.
It's an
That's
opportunity
right.
to
The
learn.
only time that you truly lose is when you don't learn.
Yeah.
And so, I've made a career of losing and then learning and then stepping back up and do it again. Much better version of myself than the one that lost before.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, brother. We'll see you soon, man.
Yeah, I'll see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yep, you too. See ya. Bye, everybody.